Paris is in the streets, rushing, forming at every street barricade, rushing around the Bastille.
Thomas Carlyle, the Scottish historian, documents the storming of the Bastille in a typically romantic way.
Let a prison fortress tyranny's stronghold look to its guns. The palace of Versailles, where the king holds court, is quiet. In the vast chambers all is mystery, not without whisperings of terror. Late at night the Duke de Lancourt unfolds the job's news. Said poor King Louis, "Why, that is a revolt." "Sire," answered Liancourt, "it is not a revolt, it is a revolution. The Bastille is falling."
The French Revolution has been called Romanticism in action. But Romanticism was more than the spirit of political or individual rebellion. It was many things for many people. For some, a worship of nature. For others, a way of life, an artistic movement, a way of thinking and feeling. Historically, Romanticism dominated European life and thought for nearly 100 years. It had no specific beginning, but its revolutionary course during the 19th century was influenced by the 18th century French philosopher Rousseau, often called the father of Romanticism. His influence on literature, social thought, and politics was profound. Napoleon Bonaparte, arch hero of early Romanticism, said of Rousseau, "I would have fought to the death for him." With the fall of Bastille, a revolutionary fervor swept over France. A young English poet, William Wordsworth, lived in France during a later period of revolution. In a poem written years afterwards, he recollected his youthful enthusiasm.
Bliss was in the damned to be alive, but to be young was very heaven. France, standing at the top of her golden hours, human nature seeming born again. A spirit abroad which could not be withstood. We just see the people having a strong hand in making their own laws. France, standing at the top of her golden hours. A spirit abroad which could not be withstood. Human nature seeming born again.
The poem is Wordsworth's autobiographical prelude, written when he was in his 30s. He was just 21 in France, and among with a French girl and with Republican ideals. But Wordsworth's ideals were to shame.
Death to the aristocrat!
Death to the aristocrat!
To the guillotine!
I thought of those September's massacres, a river of blood, of those atrocities and implements of death.
By 1792, Wordsworth had returned to England, deeply troubled by the violent and bloody course the revolution had taken during the Reign of Terror. He turned elsewhere in spirit. In his words, he yielded himself to nature. Nature for Wordsworth, another romantic poem, became a religion.
For I have learned to look on nature, not as in the hour of toothless youth, but hearing oftentimes the still, sad music of humanity. One impulse from a vernal wood may teach you more of a man, of moral evil and of good, than all the sages can.
O wild west wind, thou breath of autumn's being, thou from whose unseen presence the leaves that are driven like ghosts from an encounter fleeing. Pestilence-stricken multitudes, wild spirit, which art moving everywhere, be thou the spirit fierce, my spirit.
The young English poet Shelley and his Ode to the West Wind. Unlike Wordsworth, who turns his back on rebellion, Shelley was a romantic rebel, through his tragically short life.
The Necessity of Atheism by Jeremiah Stockley. You wrote this pamphlet, did you not, Percy?
Father, I've done worse than that.
Young man, you've been expelled from the university from writing this rubbish.
Rubbish, sir?
I withdraw that, for writing this pamphlet. You understand, of course, that you can be prosecuted in law.
Is this true?
As your lawyer, I must inform you that it is only too true.
Percy, if henceforth you require aid or assistance from me, whether financial or otherwise, you shall pledge yourself to me, that one, you no longer read those books that you've been used to reading, your Voltaire, your Diderot, and two, that you place yourself under the aid and guidance of such a gentleman as I shall appoint, and attend to this religious and political instruction.
Father, I can make no pledge to conceal my opinion in political or religious matters. I'm accustomed to speak my opinion unreservedly. If this has occasioned me some misfortune, I do not therefore cease to speak as I think. Language is given us to express ideas. He who fetters it is a bigot and a tyrant. In Sanandu did Kubla Khan a stately pleasure down decree, whereof the sacred river ran.
A few years later, Shelley was now one of the famous band of English exiles. For 6 years, their lives are crossing and recrossing, at first in Switzerland, later in Italy, and the sensibilities shared by them, defining the age of Romanticism. The poet Lord Byron, to many the most romantic figure of the Romanticism age. Mary Godwin, daughter of the world's first great feminist. Her mother, the author of the Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Mary's half-sister, Claire Claremont, who cared as little as Mary for society rules. She was to be Byron's child. Shelley is still intensely idealistic, otherworldly, a rebel with many causes. And Byron, an aristocrat, yet a hater of him. In most ways, in fact, individual, unpredictable.
Enough, Shelley, of Sammy Coleridge. Enough. Let the poor devil eat opium to his heart's content. But please not to trouble me with his visions. Now then, I have a proposal. I propose that each of us write a tale of macabre. A ghostly tale, if you will, a tale of utter horror.
Mary Godwin was not unique among the Romanticism in her fascination with horror, but the novel she conceived some time later was unique.
I did not sleep that night. I saw with shut eyes, with acute mental vision, the pale student of unhallowed arts kneeling beside the horrible thing he had created. I saw the horrible thing at his bedside. On the morrow, I announced to Byron and Shelley that I had thought of a story. I will call it Frankenstein.
Roll on the deep and dark blue ocean. Roll. 10,000 fleets swept over the sea in vain.
By 1818, Shelley and Mary, now his wife, had left England for good to take up a life of permanent exile until his early death by throwing in 1822.